Hello, this is Yayoi Komiyama from Brain to Belly, and welcome to the Spanglish World Networks on Zingo TV, channel 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, and Fire TV sticks, Roku, and Roku sticks also on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. So, hello everyone. And I just wanted to welcome my guest today, Gina Iovino. Did I pronounce that last name correctly?
You did it great. Yep.
Yes. And she is a fellow neuroencoder and also a Dr. Amen graduate, university graduate. And she's also a nutritionist. And she's a foodie as well, just like me. And so I wanted to introduce her today as my guest. So Gina, take it away and introduce yourself and your mission, please.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Yayoi, for having me. And I want to say hello and welcome to all of your guests that are listening as well. You know what? I did recently kind of did a little bit of a switch. I still help women. We have very busy schedules. We want to fit health somewhere and nutrition into our routines. And sometimes we feel like it's not possible, but it is. But I'm leaning a little bit more towards helping more women because this alarmingly has come up where a lot of people are walking around and are not even aware that they're pre-diabetic. And it's just coming more and more. So that's kind of a little bit more where I've been niching is helping,
Hmm.
women that may have gone to the doctor and then just now hear that, hey, you're not actually diabetic, but those levels are looking a little bit high. And so you're in that pre-diabetic range. And so I want to be there to help and support those women because we do not want them crossing over into being diabetic. So, and you absolutely can change it. You can fix it with just a few simple things and can be completely healthy. So
That's wonderful, actually, because in my line of work, also I see a lot of women that come in with prediabetes or that are diabetic. And actually, nutrition and food can make a big difference in that. Your diet or what you eat
yes,
is so important to that. And just a few tweaks, like you said, can make a huge difference in that. So let's go right into that, if you don't mind, talking a little bit about what can help women who could fall into that, yeah, into that realm.
yeah,
And yeah, little tweaks that could help. That would be great. Yeah, thank
yeah.
you.
Another thing that I even noticed with myself, because now, right, perimenopause is here. Women go through that whole phase in their life, right? We work so hard, we use our body, we carry us through our young kids, and we work real hard. And we always think we're going to have this extra time. And then this middle age of life hits us that no one talks about, which we are now, which is great. But this part happens, and then everything really gets flipped.
Yeah,
Things that you used to do as far as your diet doesn't work anymore. Exercises maybe you used to do don't work anymore.
yes,
The way that you used to eat doesn't seem like it's taking the pounds off, and you're like, what is going on here? And there's also that other level, which is our hormones.
yes,
So that's why I really love helping women because there's this really delicate way that we have to kind of go in and detect what is actually going on. So that way we can get on a better path. So we're not overwhelmed, not frustrated. And I think with any woman that's starting, they're like, oh my God, that's me. I'm right there. A few easy things. One thing is, I would just say for any woman out there, just stop the snacking altogether. That is the biggest thing. So there are times that we need to turn on our gut and our metabolism and all of those things, and there's times that we need to turn it off.
yes.
And especially when you're going through like perimenopause and hormones are up and down and all of that, it's just best to just stick to 3 meals a day and cutting out those snacks. So I would say that would be something that you can easily do. That'll also help you with balancing out your calories. It'll also help without adding in extra, I would say, toxic chemicals in some of those snacks that we love to have, which will be also be very, very beneficial.
Yeah, it's so true. And so what would you, I would just curiosity here. I was just thinking, you know how some people say instead of having three big meals to have like mini snacks throughout the day. What's your thought on that?
Uh, now, again, it depends on each person, where you're at in your life. I did that when I was younger. I kind of snacked, in my 20s and even kind of in my early 30s, and it worked for me. It was okay. It doesn't work now.
Okay.
I'm the kind of person, if I snack now, then I'm, not giving a chance for my body to rest, digest, repair, all of those things. And so what's happening, especially if you're a kind of person too, I'm going to say, if you are not even sure if you are diabetic, maybe you are pre-diabetic. If you're constantly snacking, you're not turning off that process. And we can get real technical here, but you're not allowing your body to stop, because otherwise you're just going to continue to store
Yes.
all of those extra calories as fat
Yeah.
instead of burning it as energy.
Yeah.
So, that's why I think it's important to just
Thank you.
stop the snacking.
Yeah. No, and I mean it makes a lot of sense because when you think of there's another thing that I'm going to throw out there, intermittent fasting.
Yes.
And you know, I do that a lot, most of the time, and for me that works. But I know each body's different. But what are your thoughts on that? And that kind of like helps to kind of reset. I found for me, I'm like way over I'm past my menopause phase, so um, for me, it's working for me to
Yes.
maintain and stay on track. But I'd love to get your opinions on that, and for women that are listening, yeah, what that might mean for them.
Fasting is a fabulous tool. It really is. And it can help a lot of people in a lot of ways. It can help, first of all, it can help if you need craving control. It's a good way to use fasting. It can also help too if you're the kind of person where you do have issues around food. That can help. Fasting is also really great too, because what it can do is it can give your body a chance, again, to just kind of repair
Yes,
and get rid of things that we don't need anymore, kind of like give a purge of what's not working. So I think it's very beneficial. But there also is too, there are great ways to do fasting and there are ways to not do fasting. I think we kind of live in this element of health where people think I'm just going to do this crazy dirty keto kind of style way of dieting, but then I'm also going to be fasting, and it might kind of work here and there, but then your body gets to a point where it goes like, what are you doing? It kind of puts on the brakes again, and then you either start gaining the weight or you go back towards your other way of eating, and then the pounds come on. So I think you have to also be very strategic with your fasting. It's a
yes.
phenomenal tool. I also use with my clients too, which is the new 5-day fast mimicking diet.
Hmm.
I use a company called Prolon that I send my clients to. So you are not technically for 5 days just drinking water or bone broth. You do have small amounts of calories, but your
Yeah.
body actually thinks that you're fasting. So you get the benefits of like autophagy, cellular repair and rejuvenation.
Yeah.
You get to reverse the clock, so to speak,
Yes.
on what's going on cellularly inside. So there are some really great scientific advances in
Yes.
fasting, and I think we all should be at some point in our life and throughout our whole lifestyle implementing some type of fasting.
Yes, I totally agree with you, and especially of repair, cell repair is so important. I mean, for me, because of my age, I'm like, I love cell repair, and for me, I
Yeah, I
take
want to turn back the biological
yeah,
clock,
hello, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to stay looking healthy and young and whatnot, and like my viewers probably already know my age anyway, so I'm like and but yeah, to me it's like it's so important also to stay healthy because I want to be this spunky 100-year-old person or more than 100 years old. I want to be like if I can live to 120 and have all my functions and
Hmm.
be able to maintain who I am and to be self-sufficient, to be independent. I would love that. And with medical technology the way it is now, it's possible. I mean, it is a possibility even now. And I know that if I take care of my body now, I can do that. And one of my dreams, my ultimate dream is to go to space.
Yeah.
I know. I'm like, "What? This crazy old lady?" But you know what? Who
Oh,
knows? If I
yeah.
stay healthy enough,
Yes.
that might be possible.
Yep.
So, yeah.
No,
And
I
I
love that you said
yeah.
that. I love that you said that, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Yayoi.
Oh, no, it's okay, it's
But
okay.
for me, sometimes we don't realize what the totality and the appreciation for health is.
Yes.
I know for me, when I got into this because of something that was going on with my own health, and I wasn't getting answers from my doctor, so
Mhm.
I decided that I was going to take charge. I was going to figure it out, and so I was like, "Oh my god, I love this so much! I have to help other women. I'm going to become a functional nutritionist. I love doing it." Another thing that came to me when I was going through this process was when I was growing up, I had a neighbors across the street, Nate and Lois, beautiful couple. They lived well into their 90s. Nate had a garden. They walked. He drove his car. She took care of their house. They knew the names of all of their loved ones and their neighbors. And they were just wonderful, amazing people. And when it was their time to go, they passed beautifully in their home.
Yeah.
And now there's this other now that we're seeing with elderly, and this happened with my grandmother. She passed away from Alzheimer's. So I've been able to see two different perspectives
Yes.
of what I can choose. And it's always a choice. You
Yes.
do have a choice. You're not just destined by your genes. You have a choice on whether you turn those genes on, whether you keep them off,
Yes.
or you fix those genes.
Yes.
So, in seeing those two different perspectives, Nate and Lois are my guiding light, and how I
Yeah.
want to enjoy the rest of my life. And then,
Yeah.
whenever it is my time to pass this earth, I want to do it in a way that's dignifying
Yes.
and on my own terms.
Yeah, I totally agree. My grandfather, he lived to 100, and his goal was to live to 100.
Love it.
And he passed away, I think, just a few months after he turned 100.
Wow.
And so, after seeing that, that was a long time ago, but after seeing that, I'm like, "You know what? I really wanna do that." And then because of my own health journeys and all this, yeah, I realized, this is what I want, and I know that with my mother as well, she had something called polycystic kidneys, and that
Oh,
developed after she had a brain tumor. Yeah, this is like,
wow.
and it wasn't malignant, thank goodness. It was benign, but after the surgery and all that, it took a toll on her body, and she developed what was called polycystic kidneys because the weakened immune
Hmm.
system, and it was already in her genetics and all that.
Yes.
So
And our kidneys flush things out. So,
yeah,
yeah.
and she was on dialysis for more than 20 years in Japan. It's
Oh,
rare to have transplants. So she was on dialysis for more than 20 years, but what that did was it really had a toll on the rest of her body because
yes.
her organs and her system weaken because it's not real. It's not the way nature intended it to be.
Hmm.
So one time she had her intestine
It's
burst.
physically demanding
Yeah,
too. You have
yeah,
to think about that. Yeah.
yeah. And so, I've seen that happen, but she's always had a positive outlook on life. And thank goodness for that. And I've learned so much from her just watching her. But what I wanted to get to was, that health is just so important and we take it for granted. And just the little tweaks, like you were saying, just small tweaks can make a huge difference in our life. And, she always used to say, well, if I don't have my dialysis, I'm not going to survive. So I have to have it.
Yeah.
And like you said, it is, it's not easy. It's painful, actually. And she went through it like a trooper. And yeah, I always admire her courage and her outlook because she always stayed positive on things. And that's why I try to, see that and also know that, things you have to take care of your health because you don't know when something like that could happen. She
Mhm.
was, perfectly healthy most of her life. And
Yeah,
just
and you bring up a great point too, because I don't want to say that there is no need for doctors. We do have a need. There has to
oh,
be a balance between and I work with my clients and their doctor too, because there are
Yes,
some things that might medically need to be treated, right?
exactly.
So your mom needed to have that medical, but there's also this other side of what we can do in our homes, like what
Yes,
can we control.
yes,
And I also, when I work with my women, is I always want them to understand that health is a bigger picture.
yes,
Okay, it's not just about our bodies. It's about how are we moving in life? How are we treating ourselves with our relationships and the people around us? And
yes,
also, like, what are we doing for our brain? Because if we don't use it, we lose it.
yes,
And, do we have hobbies? Are we, engaging in activity that keeps the brain stimulated and
yes,
active?
yes,
Because I will say, with a lot of people that I have been able to just kind of, going through documentation, for people that live into their 90s and
yes,
above, a lot of them, they still read.
yes,
Or they have some kind of sporting thing where they go meet friends and, they're being physically involved. So, there's more than just if I eat and work out, I'm good to go. There's so many, there's so many
yeah,
other aspects that
yeah,
we need to kind of take in, and we always should just decide out of those bubbles. I think another tip I guess I could give everybody is, out of all those bubbles, is what's my priority to start with first?
yes,
If
yes,
you're in a really bad emotional place, then maybe instead of really thinking about food, maybe you need to work on that part first.
yeah, yeah. And
Because when
that's
we
funny.
fix those things, other things tend to kind of come back into balance, and we
Yes.
have more energy and motivation to focus on those other things.
Yeah, and I think what weighs on you the most, or whatever it is, like if it is the emotional issue, let's say for example, you're going through a bad breakup or something like that, take care of that, nourish that part first, and work, and then everything will come together because I don't know, divine or whatever, it all works together, and the body and the mind are so they're all intertwined,
Hmm.
and if you work on one thing, it'll slowly work itself out, and, yeah, I really, love that, and I think I just recently heard somebody say, "In order to heal, you need to feel,"
Right.
and a lot of, feeling and working through that, and that also uses your brain a lot, and we tend to forget that, and, um, and that also connects with the rest of our bodies, so it's not just one system or the other, it's all connected.
Hmm.
Yeah, and, you're a Dr. Amen graduate as well, so I'm sure you know about brain health and how that is just so important, and people only recently, I think, are really aware of it, or it's become more prevalent in the media, and
Yeah.
people are listening
I
to
have
it.
my little model here, my little brain model that I have, and I like to kind of go over this with my client because I really want them to love this here. This this is housed inside your skull. It does so many amazing, beautiful things. Everything is connected from this spinal cord, and the communication goes back and forth.
Yes,
And if something isn't working here, we know we can feel it physically,
yes,
right? And when something isn't right physically, we feel it mentally, emotionally. And I mean, we are just scratching the surface of what we even really know what's possible,
I agree.
what our brains are capable of. And also, the beautiful thing is, I think both of us have also learned this too through Dr. Daniel Amen, is that the body wants to heal itself,
Yes,
right? It wants to be healthy,
yes,
and it works all day, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, so that it wants to be optimal.
yes, yes,
So, all it needs is for you, through the choices that you make every single day, is to give it that catalyst to be optimally healthy.
yeah, and it's to really send that love to yourself, to your emotional body, your spiritual body, and your physical body. And because a lot of us tend to focus on others other than ourselves. Yeah. We tend to forget about us. We're like, no, we could come later. We could come later. And I think with women, especially, we tend to do that where, society gives us the role of caretaker
Hmm.
most of the time. And a lot of women tend to take care of others before they can take care of themselves.
Oh,
And
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And you see so many of those cases where, a lot of mothers, a lot of women say, I'm going to just take care of my kids, my husband, my family. And then they realize that they haven't spent time on themselves. And just even taking the 5 minutes, to really just connect with yourself, even to just connect with nature, or even when you're going to the bathroom, I don't care, just take
Yeah.
time for yourself is something that I really like to tell women, because
Mhm.
without that, the whole thing's gonna fall
Right.
apart. Your whole
And we don't
family's not
yeah,
gonna fall
yeah,
apart.
I mean, and I think too, we have this all or nothing concept, and we
Yes,
don't have to.
yes,
I like to work with my women because we have a starting point of where we're at, and then we have a goal of where we're at. And then all we do is we sit there with our timeline and we just piece in all of those little things that we brainstorm that need to happen. And and I allow my clients to kind of decide and prioritize where those pieces are going to go.
yeah,
Just like making a model airplane, right? We start at number one, and then we don't jump to number 70 on that model. We go through the steps, and I think anybody at home can do the same thing.
yeah,
Sit down, write out your timeline. What do I have here? Do a big brain dump, and then just start putting those pieces in,
yeah.
and just start working on stuff one at a time.
I love that analogy of the, yeah, model, because it's so true. You can't put the I used to I used to love making models, and
Yes.
I love motorcycles and cars. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but I do. And I used to make models of motorcycles
Mhm.
and cars. And if you skip one step,
Right,
you're like, "Oh my God, I'm lost." And
right. Or you're gonna have that last little piece left, and you're like,
yeah, and you can't put the engine in first, you have to do it according to the
yes.
steps. And like you said, it's not a black and white situation. And I used to be a photographer, and I always say, black and white photography is all about the shades of gray. It's not just
Mhm.
black and white. Like, yeah, you can have black
Yeah.
and white and it might be fun, but it's not going to be a beautiful photograph. Because if you
Mhm.
look at old artists, and if you ever look at black and white photography, which is probably very rare for most people, but you'll notice that there are so many different shades of gray.
Yes.
And the grays are what create the fun, the beauty in everything. And
That the emotion.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I like to say that. And yeah, it's really create your own beauty or your own masterpiece. And, you know, don't just go from one black to white or white to black. It's you can create the beauty. Yeah. And it's really fascinating how society right now, it's that, instant gratification, which is the
Mhm.
black and white. And the truth is, you can't just do that. It has to be take your time for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, I'm working with women in their 40s, and I usually ask them like, let's look at the past
Yeah.
and think about how fast that had gone by. Now you have another beautiful, right, if you want to be very healthy, you have another beautiful 40 years with so many different possibilities,
Yeah.
and things that are not written just yet.
Yeah. And
So,
mhm.
let's love you through that. And as you, and even each, decade, milestone, things are going to be different and change, and
Yes.
priorities will change, and that's
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
But continue to work,
Yeah.
because if
And
you don't have your health, you're
yep.
going to be missing out on so many things
Yeah. And
towards the end of your life.
exactly, exactly. And like you said, it's all brain and body. So you have to keep your brain active, like you had mentioned earlier. And what are some tips that you would recommend for people to keep their brains active and healthy?
Yes, one of the things I definitely would say, and this is what really helped me, and so that's why I can say this, because I noticed a huge improvement in my
Yeah.
own brain health, was reading.
Yes.
and not reading off your phone. Go to the library. There's a ton of free books there for you. Barnes and Noble, if people still like to go to those, they will allow you to even sit with a book. You can grab a coffee and sit down and even read those for free. But there's something about reading that you're not only retaining, but then you're also um, computing it, you're processing it, you're using memorization,
Yes.
creativity, and that repetition too is also very, very helpful.
Yes.
I know for myself, when I was having tremendous brain fog and I was trying to help my kids, I would sit there and try to do their homework. And a couple of times I had to read it a couple of times because I was like, I'm not under, I just read a couple of sentences and I feel like I'm not understanding what is going on.
Yeah.
So that's what really helped me to strengthen my comprehension was I just really started reading.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at first it was very tiring. I could only maybe get through like maybe 5 pages and I'm like, that's enough. But then over time you get faster.
It's
You
true.
can read for longer, you get more enjoyment out of it. I would definitely say reading is a strong, strong thing that you can do for your brain, and reading different things
Yes.
that you stay, you know, interested in what you're reading. Another thing I would say to do is Dr. Amen always loves this. He always talks about playing table tennis,
Yes.
ping
Yes.
pong,
Yes.
because of the motor skills and the eye coordination with the movement is so good for you. We like to go out. I go out with the kids and we play tennis and we hit the racket over at the park. It's a fun thing that you can do with your whole family. And so I would just say doing those kind of things that involved both movement of coordination, because when we talk about it too with the cerebellum back here,
Yes.
we want to keep it very strong. We keep the cerebellum strong. It's connected to the prefrontal cortex, which keeps that very strong, and they communicate with each other.
Yes.
So doing those kind of activities is going to keep, the brain strong. We lift weights to
Yes.
help our muscles.
Yes.
Well, let's read, let's eat right, and let's use physical activity in the form of balance and coordination
Yes.
and movement to keep the brain strong.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. It's so true. Even just any activity that you can do for your body that you have to think. So even like
Hmm.
I used to do Tai Chi and I still do a little
Hmm.
bit of it, but more yoga these days than Tai Chi. And but I know that even with Tai Chi, that it was you have to remember all of the steps and yoga
Yes.
too. And it's also using your body and connecting with it. And it doesn't have to be strenuous. It's not strenuous. It's
No,
something
and think about the meditative
yes.
aspect of that too, right?
Yeah.
And oh God, that just made me think of something. Is because one of the things I tell my women is we're so used to constant, especially being a mom. So we're so used to constant stimulation and hearing things all the time that sometimes I think we forget what peace feels like,
Yes.
quietness, or just being outside and not even looking at your phone, but having your senses pick up what's going on around you.
Yeah.
So that's why I could see why that would be just such an amazing thing to do for yourself, to put yourself in like a meditative state where you're
Yes.
pushing out outside distractions and really getting in tune with your inner body and your inner self,
Yeah.
using
And
flexibility and mobility and balance and
yeah.
coordination.
Yeah, and I really, yeah, find that very meditative for the
Mhm.
soul and for the mind, but also it strengthens your body because we learn that balance and keeping your core and your legs steady is so important as you get
Mhm.
older, because a lot of elderly people fall a lot, and that's because it's not strengthened. The legs and are not as strengthened, and I think that's so important to keep that strength up. And I know that I used to take Japanese tea ceremony lessons. I know, and one of the things is you have to sit Japanese style, which is, with your feet, your
Mhm.
legs underneath. And I'm still not good at that. Okay, let me tell you. I always get pins and needles, and I'm like, I'm supposed to get up at the tea ceremony, but I'm like, I can't get up because if I do, I might fall over. But anyway, but my instructor, she always used to say, practice that the up and down movement So, as you get older, I've noticed, like, even, this is gonna sound kind of weird, but I have a dog, so I have to take her out for a walk, right? And I live in Manhattan. So, of course, there are the poop laws, and you have to pick up. And I noticed that a lot of people just bend from the hip down to pick
Yes.
up.
Yes.
And but if you actually make the effort to kind of squat down and pick up, it really strengthens your legs. And I was
It takes a lot of pressure off your back.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I could see," and I start noticing all this stuff. And I'm like, "Huh, yeah," because I still squat down to take things, and I guess it's habit more than anything, but I was like, I can see others, just even younger people, just bending over like that, and I'm like, there's something to be said about actually squatting down and, or doing your squats, Um, it could be something simple like that, but just doing squats, and making that little extra twist to help a little bit with that, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I would say too, if someone's thinking, okay, what's that one food that I could think about that could help my body, help my brain that I should stay away from? And I honestly would say that it's sugar.
yes.
Too much sugar. What I don't know if you remember in school, like there was an experiment, right? You have a battery. They took like pop, poured it on the battery. I don't know if you've ever seen that experiment. And then after a while, the sugar from the soda would start to eat away at the battery. It would deteriorate it. And
Wow.
that's the same thing that happens inside of our bodies when we have way too much, right? That
Yes.
leads to heart disease. That's type 3 diabetes, which is Alzheimer's. Um,
And
so, if, yeah, so I would say too, maybe sitting down and just saying, how much sugar am I actually consuming? Am I using sugar as a crutch to get me through the day?
yeah,
Um, I say definitely that's a place to start because it just not only leads into, like I was saying, like pre-diabetes and
yeah,
diabetes, it's also, we have to worry about heart disease too as well.
yeah.
And that is extremely high for women,
Yes.
extremely high.
Yes, definitely. And just the effects of sugar, and it's in everything. So if you're
Yes.
like, well, I don't eat white sugar. A lot of people say, I don't eat white sugar. I don't put
Mhm.
extra sugar. But also pay attention to how much sugar is in the processed foods that you eat. Or, if you buy something, even yogurt, I'll
Oh
say,
gosh, yogurts can be one of the worst. If you
I
worse than a
know.
candy bar.
It's listed as a healthy food, but check the sugar content
Mhm.
because a lot of this, especially the ones with flavors in it, that's got tons of sugar in it. And but also regular fat-free or whatever, depending on the brand, you're going to notice the difference in the sugar levels. So that's something to be at least aware of. And and like you said, start counting those sugars because you'll be surprised at how much sugar is in so many things. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, because, sugar, it lights up the brain,
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
and it makes us happy, it makes us want more. So,
Exactly. And the food
yeah.
industry knows that. Yes.
Oh, yes. Oh gosh, I guess we could spend a whole hour
Yeah.
talking about what they're doing, which is
Yeah.
actually very criminal, I
Yes.
believe.
Yes. But going back to sugar and dissolving things, I think a lot of people don't realize that the sugar also dissolves your bones.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
osteoporosis for
Yes.
women is one thing that we really need to pay attention to.
Mhm.
And limiting that sugar could help with having healthier bones because we
Yes.
don't want that brittle, hollow bones.
Yeah.
Because
And what we're
once,
learning now too is, I mean, I remember my mom being younger and doing the whole Jane Fonda, and it was all about kind of like,
yeah,
exercise and the leg warmers and, the cardio, right?
yeah,
And women really didn't lift that much. And if you
no,
did lift, you were in the bodybuilder
yes,
category.
yes,
What we're learning now is that women also still need to lift
oh yeah,
because that creates strong bones as well.
yes, yes, yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely. I love lifting my weights, and I
I do
just
too.
yeah, there's something I don't know. I just feel like a superhero when I do
Yeah,
it. I feel like I am Wonder Woman, you know.
yeah.
And but I love that, and it's really important that we take care of our bodies, and it's good that we have more knowledge of, of how to take care of women's
Mhm.
health is becoming more prominent. I hate to say this, but it's been a male dominated society. The
Yeah.
world has been male dominated, and we're finally, as women, we're finally getting to hear what's important for us, what we need to stay healthy. And I think it's becoming more, not public knowledge, but it's becoming more prominent. It's coming out there that we have to take care of our bodies. And
Mhm.
it's separate from men's bodies. We don't
Yes.
have the same muscle mass. We don't have the same
The
strength.
hormones are completely
Yeah,
different. Yeah.
hormones are totally
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, and I think it's great that a lot more women doctors are being a
Yeah.
part of these panels now too,
Yes.
and a part of the discussion of saying, no, we need to be the voice because we're the ones experiencing these symptoms.
Yes.
So we can only have the answers for them. So I think it's a great time right now in
Yes.
medicine
Yes.
because of that.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really going to be excited to hear as those things progress and more research that's going to come out, especially around women. Now that we have more women in the field and speaking
Yes.
out for other women and bringing light to this, and
Oh yeah.
talking about synthetic hormones and how you can use them to help you get through this process so that you don't have to suffer. So there's so
Yeah.
many great things that are coming out.
There are. And I think we're living in an age where women are becoming more vocal. Women are becoming more equal in stature, in status, I think. Like,
Yeah, because if you think about it, I mean, a lot of homes, both parents have to work.
yeah,
Very expensive to live. If you want to live comfortably, if you want to do a vacation, if you want your kids to be involved in things. So a lot of households now, it's both parents are working, but I think a little bit more, there's more help there, but I think still most of the responsibility still goes on the mother
yes,
for
yes,
everything.
yeah.
Because that's what I usually see with my clients. They're like,
It's true.
we're
It's
both
true.
working, but I'm still taking care of X, Y, Z, and blah blah
Yeah.
blah. So,
Yeah, I see a lot of that with my clients as well. That I could use a little more help with the house cleaning,
mhm.
or even doing the dishes. I mean, we try to teach our kids to do their own dishes, or at least put it in
Yeah,
the dishwasher, rinse it, and put it in the
yeah,
dishwasher. But you always see, if mom's around, we just leave it on the sink, or
mhm,
leave it in the
mhm,
on the counter,
mhm.
right? And yeah, the little extras that we can get a little help with, women could get a little help with, would make a big difference.
Yeah.
And
And I
I
like that you say that because I also think there is a mental shift that we have to have, a
yes,
mindset shift, so to speak.
yes,
I was there too myself and working, my husband travels a lot, so I have to take on a lot of the extra responsibility. And so I would do things because, you put in this category of what mother is, right?
yes,
Mother is caring, compassionate and taking care of the house. That's what I had when I was a kid. But when I was also a kid, my mother never needed to work.
yeah,
So, we've carry on some of
yeah,
these old identities.
yes,
And now it's kind of like having that new identity to have to say, you know what? We're living in a different place now. I do have to work. It is okay to have the kids help.
yes,
It
yes.
doesn't mean that I don't love them. That doesn't mean that I'm a bad mother.
Oh,
We're just going to be sharing in the responsibilities, and it's
exactly.
okay.
Yeah, I love that you said that we have to share in our responsibilities,
Mhm.
because in modern times, and like you said, life has changed where both parents have to be out there in the workforce, or they're even if they're working from home, they're still working. And I think it's the responsibility of the whole family to get together. Oh, I see Eric is
Um,
saying fabulous coaches. Hi,
Hi,
Eric.
Eric.
Sorry.
love
um,
Eric.
yes. And, I think everyone needs to chip in because it's like a unit, right? A family is kind of like a
Mhm,
unit, and you want it to function as a unit. In order to function as a unit, we need to all have our roles.
mhm.
And, even teaching kids to help with the dishes, help with the laundry, help with just
They help with
cleaning.
cooking. They
Yeah. And that's like really great because by teaching them about different recipes, I think I had spoken to you one time and we had talked about getting your kids involved in choosing recipes for the
Mhm,
week or, so that they can
mhm.
be involved in
Yes.
it. Yeah. And
And people also don't realize is that you're also helping your kids, so when they're in the real world, they
yes,
can also learn to problem solve.
yes,
Right? It is teaching them some of that. So having them put things away in the kitchen, they might not want to do that activity, might be frustrated, but they'll get through it, right? And it also shows that they're capable. Like when
yes,
my kids are done, I always reward them by telling them, "Gosh, how much I appreciated that you did that for me. That
wow,
took a load off, so I could go help your sister with her homework, like giving hugs and."
yeah,
And yeah, knowing that we're a family unit, we're all helping each other together
yes.
and that also aids in their accomplishments too.
Oh, yeah. And it gives them the confidence.
Mhm.
And when they're on their own, it teaches them independence as well. And what caring looks like, how to care for others as well, and how to care for yourself, but also care for others. And I know that, you meet a lot of people, younger kids who, well, yeah, younger kids, kids in their 20s.
Yeah, yeah,
I shouldn't say that.
yeah,
Well, hey, I'm 60. Okay,
yeah,
I could
yeah,
say that.
yeah.
But I see people, younger kids, and they're like, I never knew to do that, or I never
Mhm,
knew that, you know, to load the dishwasher this way, or I know it's so simple, stupid to say things like that, but or to even do the laundry. Some kids don't even know how to do their own laundry,
mhm.
and just teaching them basic life skills. I
Yes.
mean, usually they learn that when they go into school. Kids in their 20s, so true. Yeah, well, it's important that kids learn through and it's the best to learn in the family
Mhm,
unit because it's the easiest. People are more accepting, and I think it's easier for the kids, to feel like, oh, mom and dad are happy because, I helped them out. We're like a great family because we all work together to do that. And that teaches them teamwork. So when they get out into the real world, they know how to work as a team. They
mhm.
know how to lead. They know how to follow as well.
And it's a great way to really strengthen the family unit.
Yes.
Like we go through, I have a chart on the weekends. I kind of write out the chores they have to be done. We all say who's going to do what. We participate. And then as a reward at the end, we're outside, we're throwing the ball around. We live close to a beach. So it's like, do we want to go to the beach and hang out as a family? My kids love to fish. So it's like, are
Oh,
we going
wow.
fishing for a little bit? So it's a way of saying, now that we've taken care of the things that we need to take care of, because that's part of responsibility, but now we get to enjoy the rest of the day
Yeah.
and really
And
hang out as a family unit
yeah.
and get closer and build those bonding and relationships too as
Yeah.
well. So,
Thank you. Yes, that's so true. And I know that a lot of families, they don't have the time for that because both mom and dad work, kids have school, but just creating that system um, can make a big difference. Okay, Eric Stenlick says, safety in the family unit that allows members to be successful or grow in knowledge and not worry about doing something
yes.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, so
And
true.
there's always time. There's always time in any busy schedule to prioritize certain responsibilities and then
Yes,
shut things off and say, this is our time.
yeah, definitely. It's so important to have that our time. Um, I hate to say this, but it's when both my parents are gone, but it's when you take it for granted sometimes that they're going to be here
Mhm.
forever,
Yes.
right? And when you strengthen that bond, you just realize how important it was, or you start reflecting on the things that your parents did, and you're like, oh, now I get it. Now I understand why they did certain things or why they told me I can't do certain things.
Mhm.
And as you get older, you start, of course, getting a little more wisdom, but you start realizing, oh, now I get it. And yeah, it's just important that we think about maybe, I don't know, maybe thinking about what the other person is thinking or what their intentions are. Because sometimes we don't want to, of course, as kids, we don't want to know what our parents are thinking. We're like,
Mhm.
oh, yeah, they're just being mean, or they're just being disciplinarians, or they're just restricting me. But there's usually a good reason behind what they're saying. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And yes, I'm not saying kids in their 20s lack things. I'm just saying we need to teach them more. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and have them be a little more open to accepting different things and just be willing to see that there are other options, there are other perspectives out there as well. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And totally went off subject, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's still family and
Yes.
you know, and it is still the importance of a family unit, and that
And
starts
it's
with
part of all
nutrition.
this is part of health.
Yeah,
This is all part of health and well-being.
yeah,
All of it.
yeah, and I
All of
totally
it.
agree because when yeah, and learning about health and well-being from the family unit is the best way to learn it,
Mhm.
I think, because and it strengthens it at home as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
yeah, so yes, so Gina, gosh, I know that you, in your own practice, you have many tales. I'm sure you've experienced many different types of clients. What is the most important thing that you would say to your client? What is the one thing that you would advise your clients to do? That would be the easiest, maybe.
Yeah, the one thing that we talk about in the very beginning, but then we continue to talk on is their commitment level.
Yeah.
'Cause this is gonna be a very long journey. It doesn't stop. I always say this does not stop at 3 months when you hit your goal. Doesn't stop at that year mark, maybe where you feel comfortable where you're at and you can just go back doing whatever. This is a lifespan and it's called a lifestyle,
Yes.
because you have to implement it every single day. And so
Yeah.
it's just talking about those things that what keeps us committed, what keeps us motivated.
Yes.
Because motivation is just something that just doesn't come to us when we wake up in the morning. Motivation is actually an action.
Yes.
So behind the action, we have to have a thought and a feeling behind that.
Yes.
So it's always getting them as we're moving along and they're learning, they're doing new things. What becomes the new commitment? What becomes the new thought process of feeling for that motivation?
Yes. Beautifully
And
said.
learning
Yes.
to experience that themselves, because I really want my clients, as we're going through this, they need to be the own leaders in their life. Because I'm giving them the tools, but they're the ones showing up every single day. They're the ones doing the shopping.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are choosing yes or no. So I really want them to feel like that they're the leader in their life, and lead that leadership role to continue to
Yeah.
do this and then show by example to their kids.
Yeah.
Because we also know that when parents are extremely unhealthy, that
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, it's falling down into their children as well. So
Yes, it's so true. It's so true. Lead by example.
yeah,
The whole physician heal thyself, right?
yeah,
You know, and yeah, by leading by example is the best way. And I think, as parents, or just, as adults, just be the best that you can so that people can model that. Eric says,
good
I chose
job.
not to buy chips yesterday. Yay!
Good.
Good
Yeah.
for you. And yeah, but it's like little things like that. And it's really, we all have a choice and we can be our own leaders. And I think that's what's most important. And by kids seeing that, they can emulate that. And you said it's a lifestyle. And it is. It has to be sustainable. That's why
Hmm.
I don't believe that, whatever. I know there are lots of diets out there that say, okay, 30 days to blah, 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 or
Yeah.
90 days
Yeah.
to blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And personally, I don't believe in that because it's not sustainable.
No.
I've done those crazy 30-day things or
Yep.
90-day things or even 10 days things. It's not sustainable.
Mhm.
And you have to live a life that is sustainable, a healthy life with your eating, with your thinking, with your whole body, really, your mind and your body.
Yes. And that's
Yeah.
why I also love being a neuroencoding coach because it's really helped me understand what the client is thinking behind the food choices
Yes.
as well. Because we do know there's more to it than just sometimes, like Eric said, he chose not to grab those chips
Yes.
yesterday.
Yes.
That's fantastic. But I want my client, when they go to grab those chips, what are they experiencing? I often tell them, right, using that stop technique of holding the bag,
Yep.
taking a look at it for a minute, and saying, why am I choosing you?
Yeah. What's the
Is there
emotion?
something else that's coming up for me right now? And sometimes we just want maybe a little excitement in our life, or maybe we're extra tired,
Yeah.
or maybe I know this, going through perimenopause, like your emotions are up and down. So
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm feeling that way, instead of like jumping towards eating something bad, I'll actually just grab one of my kids and say, we need to sit down, like, do you want to watch a movie with me, like let's cuddle.
Yeah.
Grabbing some of that
Oh,
oxytocin and
yes.
getting some of those feel good chemicals naturally, instead of through the
Food.
process of
Yeah,
food.
processed food, yeah. It's so true. It's yeah, and it's just so that to be aware of things. So, Gina, we're gonna have to wrap up soon. So I
Oh,
just want to ask you, I know this has been fun. I'd like to
yes.
invite you back, definitely. And so how can our viewers get in touch with you and where can they go to find you?
Yeah, so the two biggest platforms where you can find me is on Instagram at Gina Will Show You. You can also find me on Facebook at either Gina Iovino, I have a page, or Health and Mindset Revolution, which is my coaching. And through in there too, you can click on a link. You can set up, I always do a free consultation. So if you're like, I'm not sure what I need, what I'm looking at, all this stuff is confusing to me, I will absolutely sit down with you. And I used to do a time limit, but now I don't anymore because I love to talk and get involved. So usually I just let it run however long it needs to run. And so that, yeah, so you can get on a call with me. We will run through where you're at, where you're looking at, and how you want to start. And I also have to, depending on wherever your financial capability is, I have a lot of programs that can help you from all ranges too, because I want
Yeah,
everyone to be healthy.
I totally agree 100%. It's really about, yeah, just, your your I don't know, heart to serve. And I'm very grateful for that. And thank you for sharing that, Gina. And I really appreciate you coming on today.
Yes.
So
And the
thank
financial
you.
opportunity, the financial part of it should not be a reason why you're not going to be healthy. So
Exactly, exactly. Thank you so much.
thank
And
you.
yes, and definitely I'll welcome you back here anytime. So thank you, viewers. Please get in touch with Gina. She is a great resource. And please take care of your health and brain to belly. And yes, this show can be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thank you.